He is President, Endocrine Society of India, Vice President, South Asian Federation of Endocrine Societies, Education Editor. Oh, cannot read. Yes. Education Editor, International Society of Endocrinology, and Section Editor, Endocrinology API Textbook of Medicine. Above all, he's a very good friend, a very good mentor for all of us, and a very good speaker. It's all yours, Dr. Sanjay Kalra.
So now you can share. Yes. Yes.
Thank you, everybody. It's really nice being part of this gathering. Uh, it's good that technology is able to get us together. I am able to meet Dr. Krishna after so many months and Dr. Leshek after more than a year. We'll speak today about hypoglycemia and cardiovascular events. We'll also talk about, we'll
So you have to share again, I
I
guess.
think, yeah. We'll also talk about various aspects of diabetes care and we'll keep it a free-flowing discussion. Please feel free to interrupt or to ask questions or raise a hand whenever you feel like. Now, we talked about mangoes, and mangoes, even just thinking about mangoes makes you hyperglycemic. And that must have been the reason why, for many, many years, many, many decades, hypoglycemia was perhaps a neglected complication. When I was a student in endocrinology, many of our professors used to say, if you have a type 1 diabetic who is admitted in the ward, you must cause hypoglycemia at least once so that the person understands how hypoglycemia feels like. And that used to be part of training in many centers across the country. Mercifully, mercifully for the patient, those are days of the past. And now we actually try to keep peace with diabetes and also with hypoglycemia. The Panchsheel, or the five principles of peaceful coexistence, and because of the current political situation these days, these are very important for India. Uh, just like you need to coexist peacefully with your neighbors, you also need to coexist peacefully with diabetes. And the glycemic Panchsheel model tells us that while we try to achieve a good fasting, a good postprandial, and a good A1C control, we must also try to minimize glycemic variability and minimize hypoglycemia. If we are able to have this Panchsheel, life is much easier for us. A more sporting kind of an analogy comes from the glycemic sixer. So as an all-rounder, we need to be a good batsman, and also we need to know how to handle every kind of ball that comes to us. A good batsman is the one who is able to, score fours and sixes off every ball. So whenever you prescribe a good glucose lowering drug, you want to score fours and sixes. So you want good fasting and postprandial control. At the end, you want a good A1C. But suppose you get out, then what's the point? Even the best batsman in the world will not be able to score once the bowler has got him out. So while achieving good control, we also want to minimize hypo, nocturnal hypo, and glycemic variability. So in the concept of glycemic sixer, we have three action-oriented goals, but we also have three caution-oriented goals. When we want to be cautious, we have to be careful, and we should know the definitions of hypoglycemia. The definitions of hypoglycemia, especially the classifications, have changed, and you will find that there are multiple classifications. This is the simplest one that is used in most clinical trials. Pseudo-hypoglycemia is when there are symptoms of hypo, but there's no biochemical documentation. Or the biochemical documentation is actually that the glucose is above 70 milligram percent. If you have symptoms suggestive of hypo, but there's no documentation, the person could not get a glucose level checked, that's probable symptomatic hypo. Hypo will be defined as a glucose less than 70, and it can be symptomatic or asymptomatic. But if a person needs the assistance of another person to come out of hypo, even if the other person is offering some food or some drink, that is defined as severe hypoglycemia. We need to know how to measure hypoglycemia, how to measure glucose. Otherwise, we can't improve our quality of life. And this was told to us by Lord Kelvin, who's the originator of the Kelvin scale for temperature. And when we assess, when we check, when we quantify, we actually find that hypoglycemia is the critical limiting factor in effective glucose management. If we get into hypoglycemia, if we are not able to coexist peacefully with that glycemic punch shield model, we end up incurring greater costs and we reduce the quality and quantity of life of our patient. Why does this occur? This occurs because hypoglycemia leads to multiple physiological or so-called adaptive changes in the body. It acts upon the heart, which is the myocardial pump. Within the heart, it leads to hemodynamic changes, and also it can cause arrhythmias, various types of arrhythmias. Apart from acting on the heart, it also acts upon the vasculature. It will act upon the microvascular organs, specifically the brain and the eye, and then it acts upon the vascular bed, the vascular tree. What does it do to the vascular tree and to the blood that is circulating in the vascular tree? To the vascular tree, it can cause endothelial dysfunction. It can also cause inflammation. And to the blood that is circulating in the vascular tree, it can cause blood coagulation abnormalities. So you find hypoglycemia acting throughout the circulatory system, throughout the cardiovascular system. It acts at the target organs, the macrovascular like the heart, the microvascular like the eye and the brain, and it acts at the entire vascular bed. It acts at the wall of the vascular bed and also at the blood that is flowing through this vascular blood. Does this mean that we should be afraid and we should not treat diabetes? Certainly not, because this African proverb tells us that if you can see the snake won't be able to bite you. So if we know what hypoglycemia is, we can prevent ourselves from suffering from hypo or from suffering from the adverse events of hypo. We must measure, however, we must keep on checking, because it is generally thought that hypoglycemia is not reported commonly enough, especially in type 2 diabetes. Sometimes the symptoms of hypoglycemia are so non-specific that people confuse between hypo and other diseases. For example, anxiety neurosis, or maybe a hot flash, unstable angina. All these have symptoms which are quite similar to those of hypoglycemia. But when you put patients in a good trial, you find that actually hypoglycemia occurs. And in these old trials, why I say old is because the drugs that were used in type 1 diabetics who participated in DCCT and in type 2 diabetics who participated in UKPDS, these drugs are routinely not used in practice now. With the older insulins, with the older sulfonylureas, we actually found that you could achieve good intensive control. You could reduce microvascular complications significantly. You could reduce macrovascular complications to some extent, but you would have to pay the price of hypoglycemia, of an increased risk of hypoglycemia. And the average percentage HbA1c at which the payoff seems to go negative is when you try to bring the A1c below 7 or maybe 6.5. But remember that these are older sulfonylureas, older antihypertensives, older insulins that were used in these trials. Let's look at the newer trials. When we look at trials that have been reported maybe about a decade ago, we find that the hypoglycemia was associated with increased mortality. But in ACCORD, hypoglycemia occurred in the intensive arm as well as in the conventional arm. Hypoglycemia may have been associated with increased mortality, but it did not cause increased mortality. What the authors felt, not author, but authors of all these studies, what they felt was that severe hyperglycemia is actually a biomarker of high risk. So people who are at risk of severe hypoglycemia are also at risk of other diseases, other complications, and that is why they have a higher mortality rate. One of the aspects which has not been studied in all these trials is cardiac autonomic neuropathy. Now, when we look at the study design, the trial design of the various trials that we all read, so many things, all the various permutations, combinations are taken into consideration while designing the inclusion criteria, while designing the primary, the secondary, the tertiary, the exploratory endpoints. But cardiac autonomic neuropathy is always missed out. And actually it is CAN, which is a bridge between macro and microvascular complications. It is also a bridge between hypoglycemia unawareness and hypoglycemia. And it is possible that people with hypoglycemia unawareness with cardiac autonomic neuropathy may also have uh, other cardiovascular dysfunction, which may predispose them to death. Similar results have been seen with the other trials also, even the trials which were not focused specifically upon glucose lowering. For example, the bezafibrate infarction prevention study. When we look at CGM studies, what we find is that hypoglycemia is actually associated with angina and it is associated with uh, arrhythmia. So hypoglycemia is arrhythmogenic. Hypoglycemia is anginotropic. It precipitates angina. Hypoglycemia is also an anginal mimic. It can mimic angina. So we must be aware of both these things. Overall, what we see from the various landmark trials using the newer drugs is that persons with long duration of diabetes, with a previous history of hypoglycemia, and with impaired renal function are at greater risk of hypoglycemia. Also, those with an irregular lifestyle or dietary pattern are at risk of hypo. What do we do? When we know these risk factors, what we do is we go a bit slow. Do not aim for a swift reduction in HbA1c. Do not aim for a stringent HbA1c target. Play safe, use drugs which are safer, and keep on assessing the risk of hypoglycemia at regular intervals. And like we said, when you look at if we see this slide in front of us, what we see is that with intensive strategy, as the HbA1c comes down, if you look at the right lines, and as you move from right to left, you see that the HbA1c comes down, the mortality also goes down, but the risk of hypoglycemia can go up. And the ideal trade-off will be achieved at an HbA1c of around 6.5 to 7, where you will have a low risk of hypoglycemia and also a low risk of death. It is also reported that the greater the HbA1c, the worse the hypoglycemia, the more the mortality. So we should bring glucose down, and as and when required in a particular patient, we should not shy away from intensive therapy. Of course, the safety net should always be there. We should aim for euglycemia, but we should aim for euglycemia in a safe manner. We did speak about DCCT and the older types of insulins. When we look at the newer types of insulins, the DEVOTE trial, for example, compared degludec with glargine. And what they found was that both were CV safe. There was in DEVOTE trial a difference in terms of hypoglycemia. Uh, degludec had less nocturnal hypoglycemia. It had less severe hypoglycemia, but the CV outcomes were the same. This is another data set which tells us that hypoglycemia may not be associated directly with adverse CV outcomes. Like we said, they are biomarkers. Hypoglycemia is a biomarker, and it may be a biomarker of other comorbid conditions which can predispose to CV death or overall death, all-cause death. Chance favors the prepared mind. And if we are prepared with the risk of hypoglycemia, we are prepared with knowledge of whatever drugs we have available, we can actually do a good job of helping our patients. One way in which we try to help our patients is by prescribing the best possible OADs. And there has always been debate about the newer sulfonylureas as compared to the older ones. So in DEVOTE trial just now, we showed that the newer basal analogs are extremely CV safe. What about the newer or the new generation of the modern sulfonylureas? UKPDS had used the older types of sulfonylureas, which are not available in India anymore. When glimepiride was compared with linagliptin in the Carolina trial, they found that glimepiride was associated with greater hypoglycemia. But the CV outcomes were the same. So these authors, and this particular paper was presented at ADA last week, they set out to discuss the association between severe hypoglycemia, documented hypoglycemia, and CV outcomes and mortality outcomes. When they observed the data, when they analyzed the data of the 6,000 plus participants, they found that HbA1c was similar in both groups. Hypoglycemia was more in those with glimepiride. But when they compared hypoglycemia versus when they compared patients without hypoglycemia versus those with hypoglycemia, they found that hypoglycemia occurred more in the elderly. It occurred more in those with impaired EGFR, those with increased albuminuria, and those perhaps with a greater A1C, with a lower A1C in the patients on glimepiride. For linagliptin, they were not able to find any difference. So basically, the high risk factors for hypoglycemia could easily be identified in patients who were receiving glimepiride. Basically, the elderly patients, those with multiple CV risk factors, and those with impaired renal function. If we are able to understand this, then we will of course avoid sulfonylureas in such patients. In the elderly, those with a long duration of diabetes and those with poor renal function. Hypoglycemia was associated with the increase in all-cause mortality and increase in non-CV death, but it couldn't. It was very clearly shown that these CV events were not caused by antecedent hypoglycemia. The same patient had a bad CV outcome. The same patient may have died. The same patient may have had hypoglycemia, but these did not occur together at the same time. So hypoglycemia did not cause mortality. It was associated with mortality. This is what the data says. Let me share what I do in my clinic. Whenever I have to decide whether what kind of an insulin I have to prescribe, what kind of an oral drug, what my approach should be to the patient's glucose control, I try to help define the patient's glycemic personality. Now, we all know what personality means. Our chairpersons today, for example, have a handsome and smart personality. Physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, their characteristics are such that they're the leaders in the country. To add to this, if we add the glucophenotype, that means the glucose, that gives us the glycemic personality. Glycemic personality can be classified as biomedical as well as psychosocial. To understand the personality, I use the mnemonic SURE, S-U-R-E. In the glycemic sixer, we had 3 action-based endpoints and 3 caution-based. Here also, SURE is divided into 2 action and 2 caution points. S is for severity and style of hyperglycemia. This will help me choose my therapy. U is for urgency and utility of glucose control. In some patients, glucose control may be urgent if the patient has a pyelonephritis, for example. In others, there may be no utility. If the patient has a CA pancreas with metastasis all across the body, there's no point in improving glucose control beyond a particular level. The maximum I can hope to do, the maximum I should try to do is to relieve osmotic symptoms, not more than that. R is for risk of hypoglycemia, and this is very important. If I have a patient who is at high risk of hypoglycemia, I should go slow. Somebody with irregular diet or physical activity, somebody who takes a lot of alcohol, someone who is elderly. 3 points. Renal dysfunction, hepatic dysfunction, gastrointestinal dysfunction. 3 medical points. Hypothyroid, hypoadrenal, hypopituitary. 3 endocrine points. If I look at these 9 points, I can actually be very safe when I'm prescribing therapy. E is for expected adherence to therapy and also expectation of the patient. So the patient defines how aggressive I will be. Once I've done the glycemic personality and I've prescribed a particular treatment regimen, then this is something I follow in my clinic. It is called the Hypoglycemia Awareness Questionnaire. 12 simple questions with which we take a history suggestive of hypoglycemia. I personally administer this questionnaire to all my patients on intensive insulin and also on high dose sulfonylurea. And these questions are so simple to do. It would be nice if the organizers could share this with all the audience and try to translate this into your own language, whether it's Gujarati or Haryanvi or Malayalam or Telugu. You will really enjoy translating this into your language, and then you will enjoy speaking about this with your patients. To conclude, we were to talk today about hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is a critical limiting factor in effective glucose management. It is associated with significant costs and worsening of quality of life. We should try to bring HbA1c down. We should worry about hypo, but hypo directly will not cause bad CV outcomes. It will be associated with CV outcomes. If we can identify the high risk cohort, then we just go a bit slow. My last slide, we can easily achieve Vijay over diabetes. And that's by the following 5 V's. By following the following 5 V's: Vyayam or exercise, Vyanjan or diet, Vyavhar or good behavior, Vyakul Vichar or stress management is something that's very important. And the fifth one, we request all our patients to do Vaidya Anupalan or adherence to therapy. If we do all these 5 V's, we can easily overcome the virasat and the vatavaran that we have, and we can achieve the right vidhi that God has planned for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It was really a nice and lucid presentation, taking us uh, from the journey of how we can tackle hypoglycemia and a practical approach how we can develop. It was really nice to see your sure model, and also thank you for giving us hypoglycemia awareness questionnaire. Thank you, sir. So if we have, do we have any question, Dr. Rutul?
No, I'm not seeing any question, but definitely you can ask.
Yeah, one thing which I just wanted to know from you, sir, is there any sort of some point based system or some risk score for the hypoglycemia which is there or which we can be developed, because as we have the many risk factors, so is there any sort of which can make it more simpler for the primary physicians?
There is no objective or no validated score. So the two things which I have mentioned, these are the best that we have been able to do. Once you have begun treatment, then monitoring is done by the hypoglycemia awareness questionnaire. That questionnaire can also be used for risk stratification. If you have somebody who is answering yes to most of the questions, he or she may or may not have hypo, but the symptoms are suggestive of hypo. So don't be too aggressive. That is like a batsman who has come on a pitch. He is not able to read the pitch properly, so he will be defensive. And after a few overs, then maybe he can become offensive. To all the primary care professionals, when you are handling acute disease, like let us say malaria or dengue fever or COVID, then everything has to be done in cross-sectional terms immediately. But when you're handling diabetes, you can always do it in a longitudinal way. If the patient has diabetic ketoacidosis,